Okay, so we'll start the presentation. I'm going to be introducing our speaker from the Department of Veteran Affairs. But first, doing business with the Department of Veteran Affairs is the topic of the presentation today, and we're very pleased to be able to introduce our speaker. We'll be first talking a little bit about the California TTAC system, but then the Los Angeles County Procurement Technical Assistance Center, who is hosting the event. My name is Enrique Gonzalez. I'm the program manager of the program. So first, the County of Los Angeles hosts the TTAC, and the TTAC is hosted by the Office of Small Business. The Office of Small Business operates 3 programs: the Small Business Certification, registering and certifying small and disabled veteran-owned businesses and social enterprises. This comprises one of the largest programs in the office. Then we have the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, which is a program funded by the County of Los Angeles and the Department of Defense. And then we have the Small Business Concierge, which offers small business startup assistance. The Procurement Technical Assistance Center hosting the event today. It was authorized by Congress in 1985 in an effort to expand the businesses capable of participating in the government marketplace. So it's been legislatively at the federal level created to assist businesses in the Los Angeles County area. There are 8 TTACs in California, and we really try to make it possible for businesses to find the government contracting more accessible topic to be able to expand their marketing portfolio. So the County of Los Angeles is an economic development program, or LA County TTAC is an economic development program for the DCDA's Office of Small Business. I want to succinctly describe the various services that we have. Obviously, we host trainings and workshops like these, but then we also offer one-on-one technical assistance in the form of counseling. And then we also, within that counseling, offer market intelligence software and a lot of other resources. So if you're interested in a counseling session with one of our TTAC representatives, please contact us at the email provided. Without further ado, I will go to our speaker from the Department of Veterans Affairs, Jay. I'll let you introduce yourself to the members of the audience.
Great, thank you, Enrique. Good afternoon, audience. Good afternoon, everyone who's here. Yes, my name is Jay Khan. I'm a small business liaison for the Department of Veteran Affairs in Network Contract Office 22 in Southern California region. Our headquarters is actually in Long Beach, California, for those who may not know. But we are responsible from anywhere from the greater Los Angeles area all the way down through San Diego. A little bit about my history here, but briefly give you an understanding of where I come from and my experience. I began my career back in 2004, starting with the Department of Interior, working as an 1102 in government contracting then, and I spent about 10 years in government contracts, so 2004, 2014, and my experience comes from the Department of Interior mainly, going through two different agencies there. I've been dealt with a wide range of different kind of contract supplies and services contracts, everything from a small buys of laptops to administrative management support personnel, all the way up through large scale, multi-million-dollar education contracts, and some construction as well. So it's a very broad range that I've worked on as a warranty contract officer as well. From there, about 3 years ago, I had actually migrated from the Washington, D.C. area to Southern California to work for the Department of Veteran Affairs, as I'm here now. And again, I'm the lead small business liaison for this region, as I stated before. So I actually started my small business experience back at the Department of Interior as well, just to clarify that. So I've about 10 years in contracts and about 6 years as a small business point of contact as well, along with multiple positions that I've been assigned to help out our agencies. I'm going to start share my presentation here, and just give me one quick second, and we'll get this going. Okay. Everyone see my screen here? Okay, I'll take it. Yes.
You should be able to see it. They should be able to see it.
Okay, everyone. So I'll jump into it. So I appreciate the opportunity again for coming here and being able to speak with the vendor communities here. To Fernando and Enrique, I really appreciate your support and setting this event up here. And this is a little bit different than I normally do. Normally it's more in-person on-site events, but because of the obvious reason of COVID-19, and I hope everyone who's listening is staying safe and healthy and practicing proper social distancing requirements. This is all virtual, along with our virtual event, which I'll get into a certain part of this presentation as well. So the agenda here is going to go from the very basics of the Department of Veteran Affairs, the type of goals and expectations that are coming from us, from our small business goals that are established by other agencies as well for us to meet on a fiscal year basis. Kind of anything from type purchases that we do, all the way down to how we came to being required to set aside contracts for service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses first before we have to deviate from that, and we have to justify deviation. That all spawns from what's called a kingdomware decision at the Supreme Court level, and going all the way through to a couple of resources that vendors can utilize to help improve their chances, hopefully, in doing business with our agency and the federal government as well. As a small business liaison, this is a quick, brief list here of some of the duties that I do. This is not everything. This is just a small fraction of what I'm responsible for, but I enjoy. Overall, again, small business liaison means I'm in charge of the small business program. There is a lot that goes into monitoring the small business program, especially for Department of Veteran Affairs here. Many different aspects of it. Number one thing is making sure that we meet what I stated earlier before, socioeconomic goals, which are established at a different agency called the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, OSDBU, and they work with Small Business Administration. So it's 3 different agencies kind of working together and to make sure we have these goals established, and our responsibility to Veteran Affairs is making sure we do what's necessary to meet those goals. A lot of creative thinking, a lot of what we call thinking outside the box, a lot of creative contracting, many different things that we do to make sure that we meet those goals, because those goals are what we're mandated to do by regulations and by laws. And of course, I'm your main point of contact for small businesses between the Department of Veteran Affairs, a representative of the government agency, Veteran Affairs, and the vendor community. My point of contact information, I'll give this at the end of the presentation, is I give my email address, which is the #1 method of communication, because I respond to emails very, very, very quickly. If you have any vendor with any question they may have, or say, Jay, I'm just starting a business, or I would like to start a business, can you give me some guidance? Where do I go? Is there some resources you can provide? Absolutely. Or I've received many questions related to, Jay, I noticed on beta.sam.gov that you have a solicitation posted. I have a few questions, or is there someone I can speak with there at your contract shop? And I'll be able to help you as much as I can there within whatever I'm allowed to per regulations. And then of course the third bullet in liaison between contractors and VA, as I stated, that kind of comes into being in contact with small business as well. So, and of course I assist our customers, our mission partners, which are 4 major medical centers. They span from Greater Los Angeles, Long Beach, California, Loma Linda, California, and San Diego. Those are the 4 main medical centers that we assist in we call them our mission partners, as we work with them as a partner to meet our mission, and that's supporting our nation's veterans first. And of course, I work very closely with my contracting staff here in-house, because again, we do the contracts. Obviously, are we a contractor? We're the ones authorized to. The contract officers are the ones authorized to use taxpayer dollars to issue contract awards, and I work very closely with them as well. All right, so as I stated before a few times, and I'll hopefully it's the last time I promise I'll say it again, these are our VHA, our Veteran Health Administration small business goals for fiscal year 20 thus far. We are in fiscal year 2021. The new goals have not been provided as of yet, but there's not going to be anticipation is there's not going to be much of a change in these goals as well. So that's why I'm providing this information here. So as you can see here, the goals are pretty challenging at times, but they are what they need to be in order for us to meet our mission, and that's serving those who served our country. You see, small business is the #1 goal on top there at 50%. 50% of our conduct awards need to be set aside for small businesses, and then we have going below that, service veteran small business at 25%. That's going to be increasing as well, and then veteran owned. And then woman-owned, hub zones, service small disadvantage, and then 8A as well. Now, here's a big question that I receive, and many vendors call me or email me asking about is, Jay, what kind of purchases do you do? And because they ask a question, and it's a fair question to ask, you ask the question, Jay, what purchases do you do so I can see what my capabilities are and I can see how I can help you in supporting your mission? And absolutely, and I'm more than happy to answer that question. And this right here is a summary of the type of purchases that we do here. Anything from medical supplies and equipment and services all the way down to medical equipment maintenance and transportation services, etc. Even MRI and lab testing and pest control, physicians, etc. So this any kind of supply or service that our medical centers need, absolutely, we're the ones who are there doing that contract work and making sure that they have what they need. And the way our organization is structured is we have 3 different supply teams, 3 different services teams. We have a healthcare resources team, prosthetics team, and even a building leasing team as well. And we all work together in conjunction to fulfill our medical center's needs as well with our mission partners. Construction, go back here for a second. Construction services is something that we used to do, not so much at our network contract office as these days, but in the past we have done it, but that's why I left that there. The public law, what does the order of precedence mean? It comes down to the 6 different levels of precedence. So when we receive a government requirement from our mission partner, whatever the requirement is, if it's for some laptops, if you're purchasing some medical supplies, if you need some administrative support, some support services, need to hire some people, we first follow the order of precedence, and that comes down to doing our market research and checking the market for the #1 item on the order of precedence, which would be service disabled, veteran-owned small businesses. And we look for at least 2 of those SDVOSBs, as we call them, to be able to fulfill the government's requirements. That's where I take a bigger hand in that, because if we have to deviate, like we do our market research and we just cannot locate any SDVOSBs who can fulfill the requirement, and we base it on the results of the market research mainly, and any kind of historical information, but really the current market research, current information, then we can't find anything. That's when I have the contract staff will have to send a document to us, to me, that is, fill out a form and provide their market research and the results of their market research to my level. This goes all the way from contract officer to their branch chief, and then comes to my level. And at my level, I'm going to review that documentation. I'm going to review it. Now, the reason for that review is for me to be absolutely certain that at the more senior level, who does their market research, being that myself, I do research and I confirm, or I find other results to confirm or deny their results of their market research, to say that we have to deviate from having to set aside for an SDVOSB. We want to set aside as much as possible for the SDVOSBs, for our veteran-owned businesses, service disabled veteran-owned businesses as well. But there are scenarios where we cannot. The work is just not there, the competition is just not there, and we just cannot do it. So I would either approve their market research or I will deny it. And if I deny, I'll go back to them and say, well, here's the results of my market research. I was able to look at least 2 SDVOSBs, and when you go back to the market and redo your market research and make sure you set this aside for service disabled veteran small businesses. And then from there, if I do approve their market research findings, then they'll propose their other strategy. And we'll also have to go through the order of precedence of level 2, which would be either the the Ability 1 program, if this item or can be provided through that program or not. If it cannot, then we go to level 3, that's veteran-owned small businesses. And then, of course, if that can't happen, then we just follow the same process, levels 4 through 5 and 6, hub zone, and any other small businesses, and then full and open competition. Now, full and open competition means that you're including all businesses, whether they're small businesses or large businesses as well. You're including all of them in that solicitation announcements. So because of you could not locate the previous 5 tiers there, then you're going to go on to level 6 there. Now, here's a big thing here. Why do we have to set aside for service-able veteran-owned small businesses? Why do we have to find at least 2? We call that the rule of 2. It's based on this decision here at the Supreme Court level, the Kingdomware Act. The Kingdomware Supreme Court decision was ruled back in a couple years ago, back in 2016, actually June 2016, to be specific. And what this means is that there was a ruling stating that a government agency, such as Veteran Affairs, must find at least 2 service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses who can fulfill a requirement and has a reasonable expectation. And those are key words there. So if you do market research, our contract officers and our contract specialists, and they do their market research on everything, and they don't have a reasonable expectation to find at least 2 or more SDVOSPs or VOSPs, veteran-owned small business companies, who can submit a bid, then you can deviate. But you must set aside, if you can, and you do locate them, at least 2, you must set aside for those socioeconomic businesses. All right. And then there's a couple other requirements there as well. The company must be registered in the system for award management. The pricing that's submitted by those companies must be considered to be fair and reasonable. Okay. And the guidance involving it should have definitive guidance in the future overall. So, and basically what that means is that your results of this information from that requirement can be used as historical information for future requirements as well. So, coming down to how you become a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. It's called the CVE verification process. Now, this process here is a 3-step process. And this goes through, going through the Small Business Administration and going through that levels there, and Office of Service-Disabled Veterans, Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, OSDBU. And the first step there is obviously you fill out the documentation and submit whatever documentation is being requested. So that's the application along with all the required documentation, your veteran documentation from the military service, records, etc. That's submitted with that application. The second level stage there will be that the documentation will be carefully reviewed. And this is pretty critical here because that documentation will be checked for authenticity. And it looked at to verify information is there accurate and correct. It will be looked at to confirm that this person or this individual will qualify to begin a service-disabled veteran small business or receive that certification at least. And then the last one is an actual site visit is conducted. Why is a site visit conducted? Why do we have to go through that level of extent? Reason being is because we have to confirm that the SBA or agency will have to confirm that business location actually exists and all the other information to the company is accurate. So that's the 3-step process there. Once you have that completed, you'll also go through a re-verification process, and that happens every 3 years. Okay. And a little note here: if you are currently a service-disabled veteran small business or you're looking to become one, keep in mind for the future that your current certification will expire and you have to go through re-verification process. It is a big key point here to make sure that you provide at least, give yourself at least 30 days before the expiration of your current certification. Okay, so you're a service-disabled veteran small business or veteran-owned small business. You have that certificate, that seal. And let's say hypothetically that it is March 1st, okay, and your certification is going to expire by April 1st. It's going to be expired. You need to submit immediately because it's going to take a few weeks, time for that agency to process what needs to be processed to go through re-verification as well, so you can continue to have that socioeconomic status. Okay, anything less than 30 days is really, honestly, we're pushing it there, and I do not recommend that. Well, please, so 30 days or more, 60 days really would be the best thing, to give more than enough time, ample time for your verification to be processed and ready to go. All right, and these are the type of seals you're going to be receiving if you're approved the CVE certification level. So there's two different categories here: either you're service-able veteran-owned small business or a veteran-owned small business. One of those two will be provided. Now going into the type of the needs that we have, the medical needs. So we have private vendor programs, and there's three of them. There's going to be the medical and surgical programs, you're going to have the substance abuse programs, and the pharmaceutical programs as well. That's a big question I receive is what kind of medical needs do you have, Jay? You're at your medical centers, and here are the three different categories. Information technology is another big question that I receive is, Jay, you know, we can provide information technology products to you. What are your needs? Where do we go to locate? Well, how do you purchase your information technology? Where do you go for your announcements? We follow a couple of different steps here, follow different resources here. We'll do our market research on the NASA.soup website. So NASA.soup, as you see clearly, they're written there. It's the solutions for enterprise-wide procurement. These are government-wide acquisition contracts. So they're specifically for IT. And we utilize the GWACs, GWAC, contracts to be able to fulfill our IT needs as well. And then of course we have the VETS GWAC as well. That's through GSA. That's especially for veteran government-wide acquisition contracts. And then going down the list there, we have federal supply schedules as well. And then finally the open market, where we utilize issuing a solicitation on beta.sam.gov under a certain part of the federal acquisition regulations. And some of those regulations are cited there. You have 12, 13, 14, and 15 as well. All right, now a big thing here, prime vendors and subcontracting. Now this is huge because at many of my events and my experience as being a small business point of contact and in government contracts as well as contract officer, I received many questions from vendors saying, Jay, that I have been trying to do business with your agency for quite some time, and I don't have the experience. You know, I essentially get beat out when it comes to solicitations and issuing quotes and proposals. Solicitation comes around, and I just can't seem to win that contract. Big thing they'll say is my past performance. I don't have much experience. And a big thing that I tell them is, have you looked into subcontracting opportunities? Have you done that? There's also mentor and mentee protege programs as well, where a more experienced vendor will be team up and create a venture with a less experienced vendor. And that way, it allows a less experienced vendor to gain some experience in working with the federal government, and that allows them to gain some past performance experience at subcontractor level. In subcontracting, I call it, in summary, you're essentially getting you experience to help you get your foot in the door. That's the analogy I use. It gives that vendor that experience that they need, and there's multiple different resources here available, as you see listed here, from anything from beta.sam.gov is where we issue majority of our solicitations as well. Other methods of being able to be more prepared in working with the government or solicitations that are issued by the government, I should say, will be what I call what's called the forecast of contracting opportunities, specifically for veteran affairs. This forecast is very, very critical. It's something that is a huge resource that I really push the vendor community to take a look at. We had our forecast for last year. We'll be having our forecast for fiscal year 21 being posted very soon. I'm specifically the point of contact for having that, generated that, and have that posted, that information. What is that? What is the forecast? Well, again, I received that question as well. Jay, what is it? How is this going to benefit me? Well, the way it's going to benefit you is that it is a forecast of what contracts are anticipated to be awarded during the fiscal year. So, for example, I have a forecast of purchasing 100 laptops, and I plan on doing that sometime in the late second quarter of the fiscal year. So the next fiscal year starting October 1st all the way through September 30th of the next year. That's the fiscal year. And what that allows vendors to do is see that information being posted online and be able to help get them prepared for it, saying that, okay, I want to bid on that contract, that solicitation, I should say, not contract. That solicitation when it comes around in the late second quarter, and I'll be able to be prepared for it. So when I'm watching, when you're monitoring beta.sam.gov and that solicitation is issued, you're ready to go. You've had a couple weeks to prepare for it. You're ready. Your quote is ready to go, and you submit. Okay, so that's why I really push this resource for the vendor community. It's an excellent resource and gets you well prepared for to be submit your quotes and proposals against those solicitations. The subcontracting opportunities for vendors who want to go into subcontracting. That's their website right there via va.gov/OSDBU. What is OSDBU again? Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. Okay, these are subcontracting opportunities that you can see and exactly say, okay, I want to try to be part of subcontractor here in this requirement, and then you follow that process there. And then public information with the Federal Procurement Data System, the FPDS, as well, where you can locate historical information on what's recently been awarded, what the current period of performance they're in that specific contract, etc. That's public information as well. And of course, the Small Business Administration as well. They have their resources there. And there are some limitations on subcontracting as well. The SDVOSBs and VOSBs. Now, they can subcontract to any business of any size. That is absolutely true. But there's a certain clause in the book of regulations, the Federal Action Regulations, which is clearly written there, 52.219-227C. It essentially spells out the exact burden costs of the personnel or manufacturing. So here we go. With these percentages are provided here. Everything from supplies, services, construction, and special trades. You see the exact percentage of costs that can be allowed and can be utilized. These are the limitations on cost. Okay, it's not that the prime wins the contract and they give everything off to the subcontractor. That is absolutely not acceptable. We do not allow that, and that is something that will eliminate if discovered, and it will be discovered sooner or later. It will be found out. Either you do not win a contract award, or if you have a contract award, it can be cause for termination of contract. So please do your homework on that clause there. It's written there. Understand that. If you have any questions about it, I'll give my contact information at the end of this presentation. Please reach out and ask me, and I'll make sure that I'll be able to answer to the best of my ability. And as I stated before, the forecasted contract opportunities. Here we go again with that. Here's the website for the va.gov for OSDBU, and this forecast is something you can drill down, and you can drill it down all the way down to a specific state, all the way down to a specific facility in terms of the type of requirements that they're going to be using. Okay, it's an excellent resource, and the one for fiscal year 21 will be posted by the end of this month. All right, and here we go with a big thing here in government contract procurement, and that's the end of year purchases. End of year, again, fourth quarter, July, August, and September. September being the busiest month of the fiscal year for government procurement professionals here. Why? Because all these requirements the money has to be obligated before September 30. Okay, that's a big key thing there. Now, majority of agencies use 12-month funding. What does that mean? It means 12-month meaning in a fiscal year. So they have 12 months from October 1st all the way until September 30 to utilize those funds. We here at Veteran Affairs, we utilize 2-year funding. Now, 2-year funding is, I received funding on October 1st of 2020. It goes to 12 months. Now you can go into the next year, into that October. Since it's 2-year funding, doesn't expire. You can actually go into from October 1st, 2020, all the way through September 30, 2022. Now, because it's 2-year funding, just to make it clear, it doesn't necessarily mean that we push off our requirements into a later date. So, for example, I have funding obligated October 1st of 2020, and I receive a requirement in that December of 2020. Here we are, where we're working on a requirement, and it's complex, and there's a lot of different key things involved in it, and here we are, it's February, and there's some delays happening. Now we can't sit here and say that, okay, I'm going to push this off into next fiscal year. Absolutely not. We still operate as if it's 12-month funding, where we have to have that awarded by September 30. If we receive a requirement in December, it's not going to be delayed all the way to September of that fiscal year. We actually have procurement lead times where we make sure we award them in a timely manner. But that's how we operate. We make sure that it's awarded and done in a timely manner in that fiscal year, and that's how we get things moving. The last bullet point there regarding GSA eBuy, Embedded SAM, and the forecast contract opportunities. These are all excellent resources to utilize. So that's why it says there, keep an eye out for it, because it's telling you upcoming requirements that are coming and where those requirements are posted. So eBuy and Embedded.sam, those are two key places where we post our solicitations. And do keep an eye out there continuously, because we're continuously purchasing. All right, and now this slide here covers the different network contracting offices locations for Regional Procurement Office Western Region. So the Western region is comprised of different offices, and the networks go from 17 through 22. And as I stated before, we are Network Contracting Office 22 for Southern California. We have a sister network contracting office that we call our sister network contracting office 22. They cover New Mexico and Arizona. Okay, but we'll be doing a merger soon where we're all one geographical area. But so right now we're separate and work closely with them. And as you can see, the different network contracting offices there, then what specific geographical areas and states specifically that they cover. Everything from 17 covering Texas and all the way down to 21, which covers Central, Northern California, Hawaii, etc., and Nevada. And then 22 here, as I stated before, Southern California, and then our sister NCO covers New Mexico and Arizona. There are leadership at each of these different locations here, and our leadership does work very closely together in collaboration and efforts to help, again, as you state there, those efforts are geared towards reducing cost and increasing efficiency. And it's a big thing that we're focused on here is how to become more efficient, more productive, lower our costs, and so that we become more beneficial to the vendor community, especially to our veterans and those who need medical care at our medical facilities. Now, myself as a small business liaison, I'm one of my key duties here are vendor fairs. Each year, there are several different fairs that are held at each of different locations here, and especially at our medical centers. So again, you see the listing there, medical centers in Los Angeles all the way through San Diego, 4 different medical centers. So these events, what they're for, it gives vendors the opportunity to register and to come and to have more of a face-to-face recognition, and allows us as a government agency to meet you, the vendors, and to be able to come and to understand your needs, have that face-to-face interaction with you, because we do care. We care about the vendor community we work with, especially with our veterans. We care about working with you. We care about addressing your questions, and we want to make it certain that you know that we're here to service you. We're here to help you as much as possible. We're also there at these vendor fairs. There's outside of presentations that are provided, and we have our booth there as well, which to provide some resources. If it's a forecast contracting opportunities printout that I'll provide, or else I'll be there shaking hands, and I'll be there addressing your questions more face-to-face on a more individual one-on-one basis. I also provide training in separate rooms or somewhere in that facility, wherever we have it there. And that training will be provided so that it allows the buyers to introduce products and services, and again have even more face-to-face interaction as well. But the training is also there to kind of go over kind of what we're doing here. General questions and general information regarding veteran affairs, because many people don't know. They don't know about what we do, what we purchase, where do we issue our solicitations, what resources are available. Again, forecast contracting opportunities is one of them. What other agencies do we work with, etc. So that's where I'll give a presentation there, and I'll be able to address questions as well. These vendor fairs, of course, are not happening last fiscal year, and probably not happening majority of this fiscal year, obviously because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But these vendor fairs are becoming more virtual fairs, and it's my sole responsibility here to make certain that I have these fairs scheduled, and we do communicate that to as many vendors as possible, so we have a healthy turnout and healthy attendance there. So. And the fairs are usually normally they're free of charge. It just allows them to come, and we really want to have that interaction with you. And there are other forms of outreach events as well, not just vendor fairs, but we also have industry days. What's an industry day? Industry days are days that are held specifically for a specific need. So what does that mean? So we have a requirement that we received, and we are doing our market research. And the industry day is designed to essentially issue a request for information, or sources sought notice, actually is what we call it. I'll have a requirement, I'll have general specifications, I'll post that on beta.sam.gov, and I'll say, vendor community, we have a requirement here with some certain specifications that we need met, and we want to reach out to you to see who can fulfill these kind of requirements. And we'll have, for example, we'll have 10 or 15 or 20 vendors raise their hand to say, hey, I can do this and I can do that. We'll say, okay, great. And as a result, then it will provide invitations to a specific day, what's called the industry day, for those vendors to come and to provide a presentation to present, and for us to give you our specifications, what our needs are, and provide you the opportunity, the vendor, to present your solution, how you're able to meet the government's needs. That's industry day. Again, we're having those industry days virtual now, and most recently I had one about 2 weeks ago, industry day, for real-time location tracking services, or we were trying to. We had to cancel that, but we were looking at having that and issuing that industry day virtually. We had a healthy number of responses as well, and this is all part of the market research process with the government as well. And again, we go into conferences as well. National Veterans Conference was a tentative that we normally have, and other things such as regional events, one-on-one meetings, and other organizations and agencies who have outreach events and resources available, and for us to utilize as well. Now, here's a key thing slide here: how to improve your chances of working with the federal government. So there's a couple of things here. And first and foremost, if you're a Service Day Veteran-Owned Small Business Certification or Veteran-Owned Small Business Verification, that's one big key thing that will help you there. After you are certified, have you registered in what's called the Veteran Information Pages? What is Veteran Information Pages, VIP? What is that, Jay? Well, that's a database. And that's a database to which provides information on vendors who can fulfill under certain NAICS codes and fulfill certain type of needs and requirements. And it's something that we utilize in just about all of our market research and all of our requirements here in the Veteran Information Pages. Okay. Also, 8A certification, Hub Zone, and Women-Owned certification repositories. And I want to make a key here that Hub Zone and Women-Owned Small Businesses are two areas that we are focusing pretty heavily on this year, because we want to make sure we meet those socioeconomic goals, and it has been a challenge at times in previous years. So Hub Zone, Women-Owned Small Business. If you have a federal supply schedule contract, that's very helpful. And of course, creating partnerships and joint ventures with another company. If you accept purchase cards, and then of course, we cannot forget the pricing. You have to have competitive pricing. Pricing has to be considered to be fair and reasonable when we do our evaluation of quotes or proposals. Okay, that's key for any requirement that we receive. And of course, we have other resources. One is being what I am myself, a small business specialist or a small business liaison. The terms are different, but the position is exactly the same. The forecasting and the procurement events, okay, those are critical. Business development centers and small business administration and procurement technical assistance centers, that was one great resource as well. And then here's a couple of sites of interest as well. We have, again, I provided this earlier and I'm providing it again to you there. The forecast content opportunities. Then we have GSA eBuy, where we issue a lot of solicitations. System for award management, beta.sam.gov. Just as a key note here, you have to be registered in the System for Award Management in order to do this business with the federal government. That is absolutely required. It's something that cannot be deviated from. And the registration process is very straightforward there. Of course, Veteran Information Pages. Here is a website right here, vip.vetbiz.gov is critical. And of course, utilizing your other resource here, Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization here, the last link there, will also certainly be beneficial for you. And as I promised before, I want to give my contact information here, and here it is. Again, email is the best and #1 most preferred method of communication. I prefer that because when I receive information, I'm able to respond back to you and provide some resources, some web links or some guidance or whatever it may be that I can provide you to make sure that your efforts in reaching out to me are absolutely beneficial to you and will help you in the future. And all right, so here's my other two counterparts here. We have Catalina Fernandez, who's at our sister network office. That's her contact information. And then my other counterpart in the Texas region, we work with pretty closely, and that's her Hattie Williams, and that's her contact information there as well. And now we'll open up for any questions. Enrique or Fernandez, I'm ready to take questions when you are.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions, starting from the most recent. How do you sign up for vendor fairs and industry days? Can you hear me? Jay?
I got you there. I'm sorry about that. Yes. So the ability to sign up for these fairs, industry days, we will issue, if it's an industry day, or we'll be issuing a source of SOD notice normally on beta.sam.gov, and we'll be focusing on providing that contact information there in terms of reaching out, who to reach out to. So if I'm doing an industry day, I'll be the point of contact information there. You email me, and I'll be able to keep record of you and be able to respond back to you as soon as that registration information becomes available.
Okay.
In terms of the other event and the vendor fairs, normally there's websites are established, and then we email it out to vendor communities, or they'll also do a notice on beta.sam.gov that we have a fair that's coming in the near future. But also to the vendors, I have to say that you have to do your due diligence. You have to reach out to these organizations, whether if it's Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization, or if it's Veteran Affairs ourselves, or Small Business Administration, whoever it may be, and they can provide a listing of the scheduled vendor fairs and point of contact information to those vendors who are reaching out, so you have that available to you.
Okay, so the next question is, do you procure mainly through GSA or FBO?
The number one place we go through is beta.sam.gov. But we utilize FBO and GSA as well.
Okay. So will the VA consider online businesses as well?
Depending on what the requirement is and what the needs are.
Okay, do you procure mainly through GSA or FBO?
It really varies on what the requirement is, but yes, beta.sam is the number one place. GSA and FBO are pretty close to one another.
Okay, so does the VA have contracts for nonprofits to provide credit counseling services that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of. That's a very good question there. But I will look into that. If you email me, and I'll be able to give you a response to that vendor who asked that question.
Okay, so there was another specific question about a industry. How about medical coding, medical billing? Do you purchase from GSO or FBO? So I think it's a two-part question. Do you purchase medical coding and medical billing that you know of? I think kind of similar to the other question, do you purchase GSA or FBO?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first part of that question, I don't believe we purchase medical billing. That's something that's a little bit different there, a little unique there, that I'm aware of. But I'll double check on that, but I don't believe we do. And then GSA, FBO, I gave the answer before. They're pretty close in terms of the amount of requirements, I mean, awards we issue to either of those. GSA might be a little bit more in terms of number of awards versus FBO. But again, it really depends on the requirements we receive, and really that it could be different between one fiscal year compared to another.
Okay, so the next question is, does the VA have an innovation program to source new innovations in helping service their mission?
So if I understand the question correctly, we're looking at new innovative ways of doing things, a type of product or service, whatever it may be. If that's a proper understanding, then we certainly do. We encourage it. As industries are ever evolving, things are changing. Technology is changing as the years go by. Things do change and requirements do change. We always try to keep our medical centers up to date with all of our supplies and services, labs, etc. So yes, I mean, as time progresses and as the needs for medical centers will change, the medical center representatives, our mission partners, will reach out to us and say, you know, we have this, it's outdated, we need to update it. And yes, we will certainly fulfill those requirements, but it has to be coming from the medical center in order for us to be able to agree and fulfill and move forward.
Okay, so the next question is there a procurement threshold for VA under which they do not have to go to bid? It sounds like, is there a method or route for informal bidding?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have the micro purchase threshold where we can utilize, government purchase cards as well, those type of thresholds as well that we utilize. But other than that, there's most mainly we try to do bidding.
Okay, so we are white male, non-veteran owned, but we are a small business with a unique wound care product that would be great for veterans. Are we still in the game?
Oh, certainly, yeah. I mean, I would never say anyone's out of the game, but if you email me some information, capability statement, and more information on that type of product or service, then I'll be more than happy to review it and discuss it with that vendor.
I think I skipped a question. Do you have to be registered in SAM.gov?
Yes. That's absolutely required in order to do business with the federal government.
Okay, so the next question is, can you provide small business point of contact for VISN 22?
I certainly can. If you email me, I'm more than happy to respond and provide that information.
Do you only buy for veteran VA hospitals?
Yes. Just the medical centers that we support.
I sell instant drug test kits. Does the VA use them?
I believe we have already an established mandatory source for that. I'll double check on it, but I think we already have that covered.
The next question is, will the PowerPoint be made available?
I can provide a streamlined version of the PowerPoint, yes.
Lots of questions. Okay, so are all VA purchases listed on FBO?
A large number of them are absolutely, but we do utilize other sources for anything from federal supply schedule to GSA to NASA soup, etc. It really depends on what we're purchasing and where the mandatory sources are in first before we go full and open and issue on beta.sam.gov.
Okay, so I think those are all the questions. If there are any other additional questions, I believe you posted your email on the previous slide so
Yes.
that they might be able to follow up with you.
There it is.
Yes, great. So if you have any additional questions, Jay, it's okay for them to contact you at that email address?
Yes, it is, absolutely. I'm constantly on my emails and I'm constantly providing answers to questions to the vendor community. So I will not hesitate. Any question you may have, feel free to email me, ask me, and I will absolutely give you a response within a reasonable time.
Okay, so unless there are any further questions, Jay, I really appreciate you coming to talk with the clients of the LA County TTAC. We look forward to perhaps establishing another training event very soon, because I know that your presentation was in high demand.
Absolutely, and I look forward to those type of opportunities. We definitely want to have as much outreach with the vendor community as possible, especially given the current environment that we're in. So yes, thank you very much both for everyone here for having me, and look forward to having another one in the future.